One of the most difficult components to review is probably a motherboard, and this is because it doesn't have any feasible benchmarks in itself. It's all about the components around it. So a motherboard is meant to bring out the best of compatible components, so that is how you would judge it. Unfortunately, I had no CPU to be able to test the board with, as I really don't have the capacity to go out and spend 10 to 12,000 Rand on a CPU depending on a motherboard. And that's where you meant to come in, Intel. But Gigabyte sent me their Z890 AI Top, and there's more than enough to speak about on this motherboard, and we are going to have to some degree, accept what is on the spec sheet. So in summary, I don't think it's going to be an issue for us to assume that we're going to get the best out of our CPU and the best out of our RAM, and I'm willing to put money on that being the fact. So how am I going to go about reviewing this? And I thought a lot about this, and I thought, okay, let's be different. Let's use AI to review this whole motherboard. But it tends to be impossible until AI grows physical hands. The best start is probably to unbox the board and then dive into the specs, and then we will go on to the software, which is the major part, and then conclude on price versus feasibility, if this motherboard makes sense and who does it make sense for. The first thing that we need to understand is what is meant by an AI motherboard or AI motherboard. I don't like the term AI. For me, it should be rather categorized as machine learning, because AI involves what we call the singularity. I've said this on previous reviews, but it's not conscious thinking. So I know this is going off on a bit of a tangent and a rant, but not throwing the AI word around too much, especially when it comes to an AI motherboard. We are just going to look at what Gigabyte means when they say AI motherboard. So let's keep my rant in mind as we go into this review. Let's unbox the Z890 AI Top. I can tell you that this box is pretty heavy. Now let's start. Need some more space. The box is so big. I'm actually going to have to turn it sideways for a sec. Let's look at this last, shall we? Because it's just the motherboard. Let's see what we're going to get inside the box. The first thing is the multilingual installation guide and quite a thick user's manual. Very rare to actually find a user manual like this. Generally, it's all based on the internet through a QR code scan. Okay, what's behind door number one? Okay, looks like we have two SATAs, 90 degrees to straight and then straight to straight. Two Velcro cable ties, an extra thermistor, BIOS speaker or BIOS alert, and another thermistor. So we've got two thermistors. The antenna for the board and a C connector. Okay, I thought there'd be a lot more. I'm actually grateful that there's not, because sometimes you just get way too much stuff that you're never going to use. So they've kept this light, but let's see, nothing under there. Let's just lift this whole thing, nothing. Okay, here we go, the big guy. I can tell you this motherboard is quite heavy. Yeah, sticking to me everywhere. Ah! And there we have it, Ho-Re Cactus. That is probably the biggest VRM heatsink I've seen in a while. Onto the motherboard, and starting off with the things that we don't see. So I'm going to turn this around because I felt it when I took it out of the packet, is we have got SMD or surface mount technology there. So we're not going to have those pins like we see over there for the DIMMs, for the RAM DIMMs. Then over here we have ultra durable PCIe armor, and that makes sense because if we look at the PCIe slots, they are very big and chunky for support. The other thing that we're not going to see is power phasing, and it's 16 plus 1 plus 2. Now let's start with the top of the board. We have a sneaky 4-pin fan connector right there next to two 8-pin connectors, so pretty standard in its placement. Then if we move along, we have two more 4-pin headers, and one is for the CPU fan, so you obviously would want to connect that there, I assume, so that you don't get the error when booting up your PC. and then the other one could be for the pump if you are using an AIO. Then a ARGBV2. Then we have 3 buttons at the top. The first one is power. Then we have reset, and then we have QF plus, which is quick flash, so the ability to flash your board without actually turning the PC on. We have debug LED indicators, and there we also have a debug AT port. Well, it's called a debug AT port. I don't know why it's called a port, because it's a display. But anyway, it's called a debug AT port. Onto the middle of the board, we have got where we're going to put our CPU. Obviously, that's the LGA grid, the 1851. That's how many pins there are, if you didn't know that. And then we have some capacitors surrounding those. Then next to that, we have 4 DIMMs, and you can see only 2 of them are reinforced. And that makes sense because most people are only going to go with a 2 DIMM setup or put dummy DIMMs in the other because it's obviously dual channel. Then these can support up to 9,500 mega transfers, I believe, which up until recently I would have said is a bit of an unachievable oversell unless you're a master overclocker. But what happened with CES and the RAM that's coming out, it is actually very achievable, and best is obviously QDIMM for this. Next to the RAM, we have our standard 24-pin motherboard connector, and next to that, I'm pretty sure that is an SM bus because this makes sense because this board seems more workstation and spec, and we'll learn more about the spec as we go on. Then we have got pins for the thermistors, so that just basically goes in there. Then we have 2 additional 4-pin headers, and it says pump here, but you can put fans or pump, obviously. Next to that, we have something interesting, which is a USB-C. It's actually Thunderbolt 4. Now, I think this was added for people that want to put those monitors or screens in a computer that you would put through a program like Ada, so that you're able to monitor temperatures and stuff, or you can use it as a power connector to something that's going in your PCIe, or even some AIO pumps would use USB-C to power it. Then moving down the board, we've got 2 USB-C connectors. Now these are USB 3.2 Gen 2 X2, which I hate, but that's a story for another day. And right next to that, we have 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 headers. And lastly, on this side of the board, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 SATA points at 6 gigabits per second. Then at the bottom of the board, we've got our frontal panel, and that's where this little doogad comes in because you can put all the connectors in there, and then you would literally just push this in here. Make sure it's the right way around. So that makes it convenient because you can put them all in, and then it's a lot easier just to slot that in. It would be easier if I wasn't shaking. Boom. Next to the frontal, we have 3 more fan headers, then 2 USB 2.0 headers, and next to that we have a TPM module. So this is where you would connect a TPM module into that. So pretty cool. Then we have a 4-pin RGB header, and then 2 more ARGBV2s right next to each other. Second to last at the bottom of the board, we have got an audio connector that's for this guy over here, and that is your BIOS buzzer speaker. And hopefully we can do this easy this time. That just connects like that. And then next to that, the audio connector for the frontal panel. Now we get to the really cool bits, and the first thing that we see here is a thermal guard for your M.2 or NVMe, and this is on easy latch, which is pretty cool. And you'll see just how thick this is, and that's because PCIe 5 on NVMe's get really hot. So maybe they've overdone it here, but I don't think so. And then we have got our thermal padding here and our thermal padding there, and this slots in hopefully quite easily. Yep, and it should just click in. Nice. I'm actually going to leave this off for now so that we can see everything together. Next on the list, and yes, I did cheat because I pushed this button earlier, but we have got 2 full-length PCIe 5s. And the first one has an easy latch. So basically, if your graphics card is installed, you'd push this button, obviously undo the screws, you'd push this button to release it, which is quite cool. And then at the bottom of the board, if you need to know, this is PCIe 4. Next, we have got space to put in extra NVMe SSDs. So this whole thing actually comes undone. And then you would, I assume, slide it off. So you'll see now, it's got 2 of these grooves that slide into these little, I don't know what you call them. They look like standoffs, but they're not standoffs. So they just slide into there. And then we've got thermal padding there, and then we've got 3 additional, and these are PCIe 4, also with easy latch. So no screws needed, which is actually quite cool. Okay, then we need to look at the back. And we have got HDMI DP. We also have some exit venting here. We've got a line out and a microphone port or jack 3.5 TRS. Next to that, we have got two blue USBs. Now these blue ones are USB 3.2 Gen 1s. And next to that, we have two USB-C interface, but these are Thunderbolt 5s with DP-Alt. Then we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are USB 3.2 Gen 2s. Then we have the Wi-Fi, which is actually Wi-Fi 7 with the Easy plug. And then what I think is really cool, but maybe a bit over the top, is two 10G LAN ports. Now, anyone that runs a 10G home network will see the value in having two of these, but maybe unnecessary depending if you're daisy chaining PCs together, but I think it's a cool addition. So overall, it's a very premium design. I think it's well laid out and it's thoughtfully laid out, especially for builders. Obviously very rich in connectivity, maybe too rich in connectivity, especially if we consider this is Thunderbolt 4, we've got two Thunderbolt 5s, we've got two 3.1s, etc., 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 but very rich in connectivity. And what I like about this is if we put the covers back on to look at the board as you would have it in your case, I actually haven't put, yes, that would go that way. And then we just click that into place, and we'll do the same thing with this one. Please don't struggle now, people are watching. Okay, and then that would also click into place. So very clean and clinical, which I like. Once everything's in here, yes, you are going to have cables coming down here, but a well laid out motherboard. I like clean and clinical and not too ostentatious, except for the VRMs. I mean, again, those are huge. Okay, a question. So we have seen a very highly spec motherboard, but nothing about AI yet. So how does AI fit in? Well, firstly, AMD and NVIDIA wouldn't have the kind of money that they did if AI was easy to run. So the first thing is it requires extremely heavy resources and able to make it work, which explains why this board is so high-ended in its nature. But secondly, if you go onto Gigabyte's website, in massive writing, you will see train your own AI on your desk. Now, what does this mean? And that's exactly what we're going to go through, and it's through what we call AI Top Utility. Ironically, I went to ChatGPT to get a summary of AI Top Utility because I have 4.0. Sometimes I use it for my own research purposes and to summarize things, but it was completely incorrect. The irony is extremely rich, and it thought that the software was used to make your computer run better, to go and look at task-driven things in the background to say, okay, cool, let's make this game run better and this do that and this do that. And it doesn't do that at all. It actually has nothing to do with what AI Top Utility does. So what is it actually? AI Top Utility is the ability to create your own training dataset and execute your own chat interface exactly like ChatGPT. While this sounds extremely daunting, even beginners can take it out as it supports over 70 LLM backbone models. Now, a lot of people are throwing around words when it comes to AI. When it comes to AI, LLM is just large language models. So what I'm saying in effect is that you go onto a website and you download a backbone, so skeleton to put onto this software, and then from there you can fine tune it. So you don't need a massively expert level of understanding of AI to use this software. So essentially what you'll be doing, as mentioned before, is training your own AI, but more efficiently and more accurately. There's even more differentiation. So what makes it different from going on to ChatGPT or DeepSeek? It's that this AI lives on your desktop, meaning that in theory, you don't even need to have an internet connection to train your own model, therefore utilizing your own resources and your own desktop. So for those who wanted it for general running efficiency or scenarios like gaming, this is not for you. It's not the purpose of it. So let's move on swiftly. One thing I do have to apologize is not being able to give you the full scope and showing you how the software works. And I do apologize for that. I will show you as much as I can, but I will do a review on the program itself in the near future. But this really gives us a good idea. So in the briefest summary, to say everything that we've said before, it is a fully localized large language model that you can operate off your components, which explains the crazy specs that are injected into this board, as well as its price. Now that I've mentioned price without actually saying it, we can move on to our conclusion. We understand what it is and what it does, but what does it cost? Well, it's not cheap. It's $1,000. And if you're in South Africa, if you're buying something from the US doesn't include VAT. So you'd have to add that on yourself. So I estimate after duties, it's going to be about 30,000 Rand. Now, this is more than twice, in some cases, triple the price of a conventional high-end gaming motherboard, even in Z90. Now, if your mouth is still hanging open, close it, as Gigabyte designed this purely to give users the ability to train their own AI at home. If you wanted it for any other purpose, this is definitely not for you. I think it's a really, really cool implementation and something extremely different that I haven't seen innovation like this in a long, long time. So I thought it was a really cool, novel idea, but this is going to be up to the AI experts of the world to say whether this has its plausibility or not. It must be noted that you can only access the software through select motherboards. I will put a list in the description below. Lastly, before we close, I'm trying to preempt questions that always come. And the one question that I saw a lot was, does this only get supported on Linux? It doesn't. It's actually supported on Linux and Windows 11. Guys, hope you enjoyed this review. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. Cheers, goodbye. Don't forget to like and subscribe.